Hi everyone, it's Buzzsaw, and I have a little something to say about Hurricane Irma. September, oh, that was another thing. That's another thing I'm going to get to in the next video is the September 16th and the June or May 11th, I don't remember which month it was from, visions. They're quite pertinent to the time period we're in. And so I will go over those in the next video. This video is sort of a preamble to the next, which was shot as Hurricane Irma washed up to Fort Myers Beach, Florida. The hurricane made a 45-degree turn off of Cuba and a beeline towards Fort Myers Beach coast thereafter, with the quote-unquote red zone of the storm surge's path being exactly Fort Myers Beach. The surge was expected to be 10 to 15 feet. The strange path of this hurricane, which was, by the way, was the path the path of least land resistance to reach Fort Myers Beach. Sorry about stumbling over my words. I have it written out, and my handwriting's not great. Which was the path of least resistance to reach Fort Myers Beach with the hurricane, seeing as though it is relatively hurricane-protected piece of coastline. To say it's in Florida. The strange path of this hurricane and the red zone being Fort Myers Beach for the predicted storm surge flooding was meant to send a message, I believe. Marco Island, the Keys, Barbuda, Cuba, and all in between were hit hard by this storm, which died down in its intensity just as it reached Fort Myers Beach. It blew in barely a 2 after threatening a 4 or a 5, precisely where the meteorological map showed the 10 to 15 foot storm surge to be headed. It turned out to be a 5 foot surge, which washed up as the tide was going out. The underhanded and privately directed commentary that TI's targeted individuals know all too well, coming from the MSM mainstream media, confirmed to me that this was a message being sent. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Okay. I don't just write things so that I can get a giggle and a chuckle. In the next video, I reference offhandedly a statistic that these same TIs, or so-called targets, will be familiar with. The fact that over 60% of targeted individuals are women, and that the majority of these women live alone. But very offhandedly, so I thought I would explain that. I pray for everyone affected by this storm, which, in my belief, was undoubtedly steered in the strange path that it took and intentionally fed to become a monster. I pray God's grace, comfort, and providence for you. I pray that the storm will in the end be used for the overall good and for further transparency of the reality of things being as they are in this world and at this time. After Hurricane Irma, there was no power. So the Stasi-style gang-stalking coalition of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, then went into effect. I technically had a wall phone, although as surely as the service was Xfinity, they had the darn thing plugged into what can only be described as a digital backdoor box before being plugged into the wall. So it made the wall phone not a wall phone, but a multi-cameraed harassment phone. And it was used as such. So after the hurricane, I had no phone to call out. That was then used to try to set me up to be arrested on 4 different occasions in 3 days. 2 of these instances were gang-stalking neighbors, quote-unquote, coming to the property line to engage me as I was raking leaves. 2 times I was just raking leaves. I was trying to pick up after the hurricane that they were hoping would blow my building away, I'm sure. But I don't know if they were bringing it to the shore of Fort Myers Beach or if they intended for it to mow over Fort Myers Beach. But luckily the tide was going out. And so when it washed up, it kind of took a hit from the tide going out, and also just, I think, land grabbing onto it made it weaker. So, let's see, 4 different occasions in 3 days, they tried to set me up. 2 of these instances were gang-stalking, quote-unquote, neighbors coming to the property line to engage me as I was raking leaves, and then quickly trying to dial the police on their cell phone when I opened dialogue in a friendly way. It was very desperate. Eventually, I fled the place where I was living in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. This was all because I released 5 videos. You have my word on that. I know exactly what happened. I know exactly what messages were being sent to me underhandedly in the mainstream medias. You know, the script that they give them to repeat these things over and over again, la-di-da, and say these things. You don't have to ask why. Just, we know it sounds weird. Just go ahead, say it, yeah. Well, those are for 2 people, and a lot of the TIs are going to know exactly what I mean, the targeted individuals, because they see the crap that's being, that the mainstream media is being used for. It's a lot of just talking for intimidation purposes. And so I recognized that. And that was before Irma, and sure enough, Irma made a 45-degree turn, or pretty close to it, into Florida, from coming off of Cuba. It went, and then it went. You saw that. It was a monster storm that made a 45-degree turn. So, my prayers are with those who are affected by the storm. But a huge thank you to Vladimir Putin. Huge thank you to Vladimir Putin for saying what he said about the storms being created by machines, because it's absolutely true. That storm was not natural. And, I mean, the width of it, how it died down, before it got too far up the Florida coast, I don't think that was expected. I think that they wanted to plow Fort Myers Beach, and that God had something to do with it. Probably it's, seems naive to you that I have such faith in God in these times, but that is my only anchor, actually. As a targeted individual, I can tell you that that is my only anchor, and I see Him working in my life, and I see Him working. When I pray, I see answers to the prayer that I'm praying unfold in my life. I see it. So, God, as much as the devil is real on this earth, God is more real. So, praise be to God for bringing light with this storm. I want this storm in its end to bring more transparency to this world. And I thank you, Vladimir Putin. You're excellent. For saying what you said is just excellent. You have no idea how grateful I am. So that's it, and that's the preamble to the next video, which was shot during the hurricane. And I was, let me see, 10 minutes here, 11 minutes. It was shot during the hurricane, and I was unaware at the time that John McCain had a wound over his eye because seemingly because of a brain tumor. Of course, I don't believe anything anymore that I hear coming from politicians, unless they want to take John McCain out for some reason. I doubt he's got a brain tumor. I just doubt that he does, because I've seen too much, and so people can say things all they want. I don't know what's going on with that, but it just seems so unlikely. But that being said, I didn't know that was the reason for the wound, and so I just spoke my piece during the storm. And I hope you can appreciate me, and maybe perhaps even forgive me for some things. But I think that it's important for me to show that video for other reasons. Okay, God bless.